What's your development setup look like, and how has it evolved with AI?
Yeah, I mean, it's changed quite a bit over like the past, I don't know, let's go like 2 or 3 years. I mean, I went from obviously being a diehard VS Code user, just from like having worked at Microsoft on VS Code. Like I signed a blood contract, like I have to continue using this. You know, Cursor popped up, but my company started paying for Cursor, so I used that for a little bit. And then once Claude Code came around, like it was kind of game over for me. And I've been really like hard to move off that. I tried Open Code for a bit. It was great. Codex, Gemini, all those kind of things. But the one that I've really kind of settled into is VS Code still, but with like the Claude Code extension installed, where I can work on things, then I can pop up Claude Code, say, hey, please fix this for me. And then for like longer tasks, I'll just open like the CLI for Claude Code and just let it run, you know.
You were a product manager for VS Code and have a unique insight on IDEs in general. What do you think AI coding tools are doing wrong, or how would you like to see them integrate with IDEs?
Yeah, we're kind of seeing this like, I don't know if I want to call it like a revolution or an evolution of dev tools, because you have like the cursors and the Copilot sides of the world, which like it's an IDE first, and then you tell your IDE to edit this bit of code. You have other things like Claude Code, Codex, Gemini, Open Code that are like kind of fire and forget, like make a big prompt and say like, all right, go fix this Claude Code. And then you have yet different things that are going to be like the replets, the lovables that are like all kind of like built in together. These things are starting to like borrow from each other and have some sort of convergence. I don't really know where they're going to go with it, but certainly English as the programming language is becoming more and more just accepted so that people can, you know, be AI assisted and AI enabled. But I think it's got to be, at least for like the professional engineer, it has to be something to the effect of like, I can still edit and see my code and endorse what the AI is putting out. And I can have kind of fine-grained control of like what you're editing, what you're looking at, but still have the ability to sit, like make like, you know, I call them like terraforming changes, right? Where like you're like trying to change everything about the app, or can see everything across the project. And so some combination of like being able to directly edit code and still be able to do like these big prompts is kind of where I see things going.
How has AI changed the way you work as a product manager?
It's changed it quite a bit. I used to spend probably, I don't know, 50+% of my time just like formatting stuff, like getting the idea down, getting it written in such a way that it's very clear, getting things into like the correct document shape, tailoring it to like different audiences. Like, all right, I'm going to take the same document and I'm going to tailor it for executives. I'm going to tailor it for the engineering leadership. That part of my job got significantly reduced, which is great because like that's not like an interesting part of my job, right? Like formatting Google Docs. What's really nice about something like Claude or Gemini or something like that is I can say, here's my loose collection of ideas. Here's like a previous spec of like that I was happy with how it came out with. Take this loose collection of ideas, organize it, put it into this, and then I get like a document on the other side of it that's like not ready to ship yet, but it's like way closer. I've cut down, again, like 75% on this just formatting business that I used to have to do. The research has been very helpful as well. Whereas before, like if I was going to do like a pricing discussion, I'd have to go out and like, all right, here's competitor A, here's competitor B, here's competitor C. I can just say like, hey, Perplexity, go do research mode on these things, make me a table of these things. I still have to verify it because it frequently gets it wrong, but it usually gets the broad strokes right. So being able to like gather lots of public information quickly has been like you know, lifesaver in that capacity. It makes me a lot more able to work on the things that are like, what makes my business different, makes it interesting, kind of like those kind of things, as opposed to just like, how do I present this information to others?
What are you looking for when you're hiring engineers?
I mean, much the same thing these days. Like I still want engineers to be interested in what they're doing, participating, useful people, like people that I want to be around. Like all that stuff really hasn't changed from, you know, 10 years ago to today. What I'm worried about with incoming engineers and product managers that I'm hiring is I don't want just a straight up vibe coder. Like, and that's my concern. And I'm still trying to figure out like how to like sift through all this like new information. Like if you come in and you are just like able to vibe code something, but it like spits out terrible code and you don't know how to debug that, you're not going through and like reading it and making sure that it's all good stuff. I don't want to work with that. I want someone that's AI enabled as opposed to AI reliant, where they're using it to organize themselves, to ideate, to accelerate themselves, as opposed to replace themselves. Beyond that, like, I don't know, we're in new territory. It changes every day. So we'll see what comes next.
What skills do you think will separate developers who thrive in an AI-heavy workflow from those who get left behind?
Engineers that I've worked with over my career that were phenomenal engineers, I see some of them getting left behind because they're kind of taking a Luddite approach to this AI revolution. It's like, well, I know better. My homegrown, organic, free roam code is better than your AI generated slop. In some cases, absolutely, right? Like when you're doing like new frontier stuff that AI has not encountered, or some of that stuff, like, yeah, I appreciate like a high touch approach to this. But like I saw this in spades when I was at Neon with some of the people that I worked with. Like some of these engineers that were phenomenal engineers and also had figured out how to use Cursor and Claude Code to their advantage were just flying, and they were making great code. They were prompting things really well. They were putting proper guardrails in place, and then they were their own code reviewer first before then I, looked at it. That was what really opened my eyes to just being like, there's more to this. I need to like be more AI enabled. I think these people that are both curious and cautious and skeptical, like this perfect balance of like trying to adopt and be kind of on that frontier with AI, but also knowing that like it's still getting a lot of it wrong. Those are the people that are like that observe that tension, I think are going to do the best. And I think being in either side of that razor's edge is problematic. Either you're not going to be going fast enough, or you're just going to get it wrong, I suppose, right? It'll be interesting to watch and see what happens with all these different tools.
As AI takes on more of the actual coding work, what does a developer's job look like in, say, 3 years?
I mean, some people want to draw a straight line of like, hey, like look where ChatGPT has come until 5.4 or whatever's out today, right? And they want to say like, well, it's going to keep going like that. And who knows? We might be going faster, and we might be going slower. 3 years from today might look a lot like it does today, and it might look wildly different. And anyone that tells you that they know is trying to sell you something, probably. The line that I can see and I can draw is that agents are getting better. We are getting better at like agent techniques, and certainly the foundational models continue to improve over time. That in 3 years, I think we'll be kind of using it like agentic coding and codegen more, and that the engineer's job will be more directing the agents and then reviewing their output. I could see that becoming more and more true, particularly for like the smaller parts of coding. But I still think you'll be in your editor writing code in 3 years. I don't see that changing. I don't see agents totally removing humans from the situation. And like that's obviously going against what a lot of our industry leaders are saying, but I think some of them are trying to sell you things. So I don't know. We'll see. Maybe I'll be out of a job in 3 years, in which case you can find me on a beach somewhere. Actually, probably a ski hill, if we're being super honest.
Where do you think we are in the AI hype cycle? Peak hype, or is the hype still underselling the impact of AI?
I think inevitably it has to be both, and it depends on who you're talking to. You'll talk to these AI maximalists that are coming out of like, San Francisco. They're like, we're approaching the singularity, and, AGI is here and all those kind of things. I think those people are like peak hype. We are not there. That's not what this is. And I think having some tempered expectations there is helpful. And you talk to other people that were like, AI still hasn't penetrated their industry or their jobs yet. And they're saying things that like, this isn't useful to me, or, I don't need these robots in my life telling me what to do. And I think it's the wrong side of the hype cycle, right? You should be a bit more excited about this, right? Because these tools with proper care and proper use can free up like human, like, cognitive capital to like worry about bigger and more interesting problems, and leave these like organizational kind of more repeatable details to be done by a machine. And I think that's worth the hype. ChatGPT, like write part of my specs and just kind of organize it. Like that frees me up to think more about like business solutions and like how am I different and like what value am I offering. I think giving people that capacity is worth the hype.
What's one thing AI is genuinely great at, and one thing developers keep expecting it to do that it just can't?
At least this is true today. Who knows what it's going to be tomorrow? It's genuinely great if you can give it a bunch of good examples. Like, here's things that I like, and I want you to fit what I have to these like kind of templates. So for example, my product specs, I generally write them in mostly the same fashion. And so if I do that and I was like, all right, here's another spec I want you to write, here's some proper examples of that. It is, if you can give it that kind of like repeatable task, it's amazing, and it'll nail it every single time. It can do like the first round of coding of like what you're trying to do exceptionally well. The thing where like it's kind of falling apart and people expect it to do well, like they draw the straight line from like it starts a project really well to like, let's throw it at this massive project and tell it to make big changes. It's still kind of bad at it, right? Like it still like does a bunch of changes that you don't want it to do. I remember talking to my friend about him deploying his first app on Replit, and it's like, it built the first version of this in like 2 prompts. It was amazing, and I love it. He monetized it. He put ads on it, and then he's like, 3 or 4 months into it, he's like, these tools are terrible. I hate everything about it, because I go to update it and it drops my database or something like that, right? When you give it kind of these like free roam, green field kind of projects, it does really well because like, it's not messing anything up. It doesn't have any context that it has to need to consider. It doesn't have to have any craft around maintaining what exists. When you ask it to have some care around that, the guardrails got to be really good. So things like adding things like tests and linting and formatting and all those kind of things really do help the AI kind of stay on task. But yeah, it's tough. It's a tool that you still need to wield carefully.
What surprised you the most in the last 6 months working with AI?
Never in my career, which I mean, I'm some 17 years working in software engineering, has the field been moving this fast? Compare this to like the JavaScript framework wars of like 10 years ago or something like that. We felt like JavaScript was moving too fast and everyone was like, there's a new JavaScript framework every day and it's too difficult to keep up. Like I have to read Hacker News at least once a week, right? And that felt way too fast back then, right? We're moving so quickly and we're adopting new standards and abandoning them at such a rapid pace that like if you're not reading Hacker News or wherever you get your news source from every day, you've already missed something that's going to change like the face of the industry. And like I don't think that's exaggeration. Like it truly is. Like I remember we were saying that MCP is here to stay forever and it's the best part of all these things. And now we realize that like it's actually very specific and it's a tool for like some kind of niche parts of it, but it's not the cure-all salvo that we thought it was going to be. It's fun, it's scary, it's interesting, keeps me engaged for sure. And it certainly surprises me on a frequent basis of like just the shifting sands of like how we build things, how we interact with these agents and AI tools, and like how quickly we leave them behind. And once we find it's like, oh, works really well, or we have a better technique of doing it later.